It started slow, like most heartbreaks do, so quietly that Erica couldn't even tell when the cracks began to show. At first, it was just little things. Steven stopped texting her good morning like he used to. He'd forget the things she told him, like how her mom was in the hospital or how nervous she was about the big presentation at work. She made excuses for him. He was tired, busy, stressed. And maybe he was. But even when they sat side by side on the couch, it felt like miles were between them. She used to believe Steven saw her, really saw her, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about art, the way her hands trembled when she got anxious. But lately, he barely looked at her anymore. She'd catch him scrolling on his phone during dinner or staring off into space, and when she asked what was wrong, he just shrugged. Nothing, he'd say. You're overthinking again. That sentence used to sting. Now it felt like a slap. Erica had always been the one who felt too much. She remembered one night when she stayed up until M, making him a care package for his job interview, notes of encouragement, his favorite snacks, even a lucky coin she found in a vintage shop. He'd said thank you, kissed her forehead, and left it on the kitchen counter for 3 days before tossing it in a drawer. She never mentioned it again. Kelly, her childhood friend, had started noticing things. You don't smile the way you used to, she said one afternoon as they sat in a cafe. It's like you're shrinking around him. I'm fine, Erica replied, eyes on her untouched coffee. He's just going through a lot. But even as she said it, something inside her cracked. Why was it always about what he was going through? John, a colleague from work, had become a quiet presence in her life. Not in the romantic sense. John was engaged, but he listened. He noticed things. He once brought her chamomile tea because she'd mentioned it helped her migraines. When Steven forgot her birthday dinner and came home late without a text, it was John who sat with her at a 24-hour diner and told her she deserved better, not with bitterness, but with kindness. Erica didn't want another man. She wanted her man to love her right. But love, she was learning, wasn't supposed to feel like begging. One night, it all came crashing down. She'd spend hours cooking his favorite meal, lasagna, from scratch, and lit candles, hoping maybe tonight would be different. Maybe he'd see her again. When he walked in, he barely noticed the effort. He dropped his keys on the table, muttered something about a rough day, and went straight to the bedroom. She sat there alone, fork still in hand, lasagna growing cold. She followed him, quietly, heart pounding in her chest. Steven, she said, barely above a whisper. He didn't look up from his phone. Yeah? Do you even want this anymore? Her voice cracked, but she stood still. He scoffed. You're being dramatic again, Erica. Always needing something. That was the moment. Not the shouting. Not the cheating, not that she knew of any. It was the tone, the carelessness. Like her love was a burden he'd gotten tired of carrying. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just nodded, turned around, and went to the guest room. She stayed there that night, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. By morning, she had already packed. No words, no letters, just quiet steps down the stairs, past the pictures they'd once taken, out the door, and she didn't look back. Erica didn't cry that morning. Not in the taxi, not at Kelly's doorstep, not even when she curled up on the couch clutching her overnight bag like it could hold her broken pieces together. It was strange how silence could feel louder than any argument. She had screamed so many times in her head over the past year, begged for his love in invisible ways. But now she was done. Kelly opened the door in an old hoodie, her eyes instantly narrowing at the sight of Erica's pale face and trembling lips. He did something, she said, not as a question, but a fact. Erica nodded once, just once, then walked inside without a word. Kelly didn't press. She just handed her a blanket, a warm cup of ginger tea, and turned on a rerun of some old sitcom they used to watch in college. That night, while Kelly slept in her room, Erica lay awake staring at the ceiling fan, the weight of everything pressing down on her chest like a stone. She wasn't sad that it ended. She was sad that she stayed so long while it died. Steven didn't call that day, or the next. She checked her phone too many times, expecting a message, an apology, even anger, anything. But the screen stayed dark, and that silence only confirmed what she hadn't wanted to admit. He had let her go a long time ago. She had just been too in love to see it. By day 3, Kelly had had enough. You're not just going to sit here and rot, okay? She said, tossing a fresh pair of leggings and a hoodie on the couch. We're going for a walk. Get up. I don't feel like nope, not an option. You left him. That's a big damn deal. You get to be proud of that, Erica smiled weakly and pulled on the clothes. The air outside was cool, almost sharp, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. They walked in silence for a while, then Erica finally spoke. I loved him so hard I forgot how to love myself. Kelly stopped walking and turned to her. Then it's time you start remembering. They walked until the sun dipped low behind the buildings, and when they returned, Erica felt just a little bit lighter. The next morning, her phone lit up. Steven, you're being ridiculous. Come home. We can talk. Just that. No, miss you. No, I'm sorry. No real emotion. And it hit her, finally, how empty his words had always been. She didn't even feel the urge to reply. She powered off the phone and left it on the nightstand. By the weekend, she started helping Kelly clean the apartment. They laughed about the ugly vase Kelly's aunt had gifted her, ordered greasy pizza, and sat cross-legged on the floor like they were teenagers again. Erica caught herself, really smiling, and then, unexpectedly, John texted her. John, heard you're going through it. I'm around if you need a distraction. No pressure. She stared at the message for a long time before typing back, Erica, thanks. I might take you up on that. It wasn't about moving on. It wasn't about filling a void. It was about feeling like herself again, around people who didn't make her feel small. She didn't need fixing. She just needed time. A few days later, Erica found herself sitting across from John at a quiet bookstore, calf tucked away behind a row of maple trees. The place smelled like cinnamon, paper, and just a hint of rain. It was peaceful, untouched by the chaos she had left behind. John looked the same as always, neat, thoughtful, with that calm presence she'd always appreciated during stressful office meetings, but now, sitting there without fluorescent lights and company deadlines between them, she saw something else. Not romance, not desire, just comfort. And God, how badly she needed that. You look better, he said after a sip of his coffee. Lighter. She laughed softly. That's what happens when you stop carrying someone else's weight. John nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. It's good you left. Some people stay in messes they didn't make, hoping love will clean it up. I stayed too long, she said, more to herself than to him. Maybe, he shrugged. But you got out. That part matters more. They talked about work, life, and music. John still obsessed with vinyl, Erica still sketching in secret. He remembered little things about her, like how she hated cold milk in her coffee or how she bit her lip when nervous. And not once did he say she was being dramatic or too sensitive. When they parted ways, he gave her a one-armed hug and said, call me anytime. No expectations, just a friend. Erica walked away feeling okay, not ecstatic, not devastated, just okay. And that was progress. Later that night, she opened her journal for the first time in months. Her handwriting was messy, unsure, but it poured out of her like water from a dam. All the ways she had twisted herself to be enough. All the nights she sat alone on the couch pretending she didn't see Steven texting someone else, or scrolling through dating apps, just for fun, as he once joked. She wrote about the lasagna, about the forgotten birthdays, about the way he made her feel like love was something to be earned, not something she already had. And finally, she wrote something that stopped her in her tracks. He didn't break me. I gave him too many chances. She stared at those words, her fingers trembling slightly. She had always been the one who stayed, who tried harder, who forgave more. And for what? A cold bed, a distracted partner, a love that dried up before she even noticed. Steven texted again the next morning. Steven, you think running away fixes anything? Grow up, Erica. This time, it didn't sting. It made her laugh. She could almost hear the emptiness behind the words. Not pain, not regret. Just ego, bruised and bitter. She didn't reply. Instead, she blocked his number. For the first time in what felt like years, her heart didn't race when she thought of him. There was no lingering ache, no longing, just a quiet sort of peace, the kind that creeps in slowly when you stop expecting the person who broke you to be the one to fix you. She spent the next few days rediscovering herself. Long walks, old sketchbooks, nights with Kelly filled with movies and face masks. Little by little, she reclaimed the pieces Steven had worn down. She started to feel like a woman again. Not a shadow, not an afterthought, but Erica, whole. The real test came 1 week later. Erica was in line at a small grocery store, holding a basket of oat milk, strawberries, and granola things Steven would have called pointless. She was scrolling through a list on her phone when she heard his voice. She froze. Erica? Her stomach dropped. She turned slowly, already knowing. And there he was, Steven. Same smug grin, same lazy posture, but this time, she saw it differently. He didn't look powerful. He looked small, like a man who expected her to still tremble at his voice. Didn't expect to see you here, he said casually, stepping closer. She said nothing at first, just looked at him. His hoodie was wrinkled, his eyes a little tired, and yet, he still carried himself like she owed him something. You look different, he added, eyes scanning her face. I feel different, she said simply. He smiled like it was a game. Come on, Erica, let's talk. No, the word was clear, firm, and loud enough that the woman behind her shifted awkwardly. Steven blinked, clearly not used to her tone. Just 5 minutes. You owe me that much. She narrowed her eyes. I don't owe you anything. The silence between them stretched, heavy and tense. People walked past, oblivious. The world kept moving, like it always had. You just left, he said, a bit lower now. No note, no goodbye. You didn't notice me when I was there, she replied. So what difference did it make? That shut him up. She turned away and moved to the checkout. Her hands trembled a little, but not from fear, from power. For once, she had the last word, and she didn't look back. That night, she told Kelly about the run-in. They were sitting on the floor again, eating noodles out of takeout boxes. God, I'm so proud of you, Kelly said, raising her glass of wine like a toast. To walking away, Erica clinked her glass against Kelly's. To walking away, she echoed, smiling. She didn't expect anything else from Steven, and she didn't want anything. But a part of her had feared seeing him would make everything come rushing back. Instead, it only confirmed how far she had come. The man who once made her feel invisible now looked like a stranger she used to know. 2 days later, John invited her to an art show in the city. I know you're still healing, he texted. No pressure. Just thought you might like it. Erica hesitated, not because of him, but because she wasn't sure if she was ready to be around something that looked like joy. But then she remembered the sketches she'd started doing again, the colors returning to her fingertips. Maybe she was ready. She wore a soft cream sweater and a long coat, her curls pulled back, a red lip that made her feel like herself again. When she walked into the gallery and saw John waiting with 2 drinks and a smile, her heart didn't race with confusion or fear, just ease. You came, he said. I'm glad I did. The art was abstract, messy, emotional, everything she'd buried inside for months. They wandered through the pieces, sharing thoughts, making jokes. There were no expectations in the air. Just 2 people who understood how heavy life could be, and how light it felt when someone truly saw you. As they stood in front of a piece titled The Weight of Silence, a swirl of black and red on canvas, John turned to her. I don't know what Steven did to make you disappear like that, but I'm glad you came back. Erica looked at the painting, at the storm of color, and smiled. I didn't come back, she said softly. I started over. The weeks that followed felt like waking up from a deep, heavy sleep. Erica wasn't rushing to be better, and she wasn't pretending to be okay. She was just being. Each day unfolded like something unfamiliar but comforting, the way sunlight slips through curtains on a slow morning. Her heart still carried scars, but they weren't bleeding anymore. One morning, Kelly handed her a steaming mug of coffee and leaned against the counter, arms folded. You ever think about dating again? Erica laughed into her cup. Already trying to kick me out of your apartment? God, no, but I see how you smile after talking to John. That's all I'm saying. Erica tilted her head, eyes narrowed. He's just a friend. Sure, Kelly grinned. The kind of friend who looks at you like you hung the damn moon. She rolled her eyes but couldn't help the way her stomach fluttered. John had been gentle, consistent, never overstepping, never pushing. It was safe with him, but she was still piecing herself together. Was it fair to ask someone to wait for a version of her that wasn't fully formed yet? That night, she stood at her window, watching city lights blink like tiny stars. She remembered how Steven used to stand behind her in silence, not holding her, just existing like a shadow. It had felt empty, but the thought of John standing behind her now, she didn't imagine silence. She imagined warmth, music playing low, the smell of something sweet baking in the kitchen. She grabbed her phone. Erica, hey, want to go for a walk tomorrow? Just us and the cold air. John Thought you'd never ask. The next day, they met at a park trail just outside the city. The trees were bare, but the air was crisp and alive. They walked without rush, shoes crunching over gravel paths, hands stuffed in coat pockets. You look lighter, John said, glancing sideways. I feel lighter, she replied, stealing his words from weeks ago. You've been through a lot. I let someone treat me like I was disposable, she said quietly. And the worst part is I believed I deserved it for a while. John stopped walking. She turned, unsure what he was doing, but he just looked at her, not with pity, not with that wide-eyed sympathy people always gave when they didn't understand heartbreak, but with quiet, real understanding. You never deserved that, he said. Not even for a second. Erica blinked back the sudden sting behind her eyes. I know that now, but it took leaving to see it. They sat on a bench under a leafless tree, their breath visible in the cold air. He didn't touch her, didn't reach for her hand. He just sat with her, and in that silence, she felt something shift, not in a big, explosive way, but like the slow thawing of winter. When she got home that evening, she pulled out a canvas, not a sketchbook, not just a pencil, a full canvas. She hadn't painted since her college days, since life got tangled with jobs and relationships and forgetting herself. She painted what healing felt like, not beautiful, not perfect, but layered and real, with streaks of chaos and swirls of color, and a pale blue streak right through the center. Hope. Kelly walked by, paused, and let out a low whistle. You're back, she said. Erica looked down at the messy paint on her hands, at the life she was finally starting to rebuild. No, she whispered. I'm becoming. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of silence from Steven. No texts, no surprise visits, not even a passive-aggressive email, like she half expected. Erica had braced herself for more drama, for some final act of guilt-tripping or emotional sabotage. But what she got instead was nothing, and somehow, that stung in a different way. She wasn't sure if it was rejection or relief, maybe both. But she was learning that even silence could be a form of closure, cold, quiet, and final. One evening, as she stood in the kitchen helping Kelly chop vegetables, her phone buzzed with an email notification. She almost ignored it until she saw the sender, Steven Merrick. Her stomach dropped. Kelly looked up from the cutting board. What? Erica swallowed. He emailed me. Want me to read it for you? She shook her head. No, I got it. The subject line was short. Closure? She opened it slowly, bracing for guilt, blame, or a twisted apology. But what she read was worse. Erica, I've been thinking about everything. Maybe I was too hard on you. Maybe you were too sensitive. Truth probably sits somewhere in the middle. I know you walked away, and maybe that's what you needed. But I think you should also consider that relationships take work, and we had something worth fixing. I didn't chase you because I was angry, not because I didn't care. Anyway, if you ever feel like talking, I'm still here. Steven. She read it twice, then a third time. What's he saying? Kelly asked. Erica's voice was calm, almost too calm. He wants me to believe I left too soon, that it's on both of us, that I gave up. Kelly rolled her eyes. He doesn't get it, does he? No, and he never will. The next morning, Erica didn't reply. She wrote a letter to him in her journal instead, one he would never read. I didn't leave because I was too sensitive. I left because you stopped caring. I left because every day with you felt like an apology I hadn't said yet. I left because I was tired of explaining my worth to someone who only saw the parts of me that were convenient. She closed the journal and slid it back into the drawer. By now, even her anger was fading. She wasn't holding on to bitterness. She didn't want revenge. She just wanted distance, peace. She had built something sacred out of her own ruin, and she wouldn't let him touch it, not even with words. Later that weekend, John invited her to a late-night poetry reading. She hesitated at first. Poetry wasn't really her thing, but there was something about the idea of dim lights, soft words, and maybe the warmth of John's shoulder beside hers that felt right. The small venue was cozy, filled with mismatched chairs and the smell of old books. They sat close, but didn't touch. When the poets spoke, their voices cut through the room like music, tales of loss, rediscovery, self-worth, all wrapped in raw emotion. Then a girl with shaky hands stepped up and read. He didn't break me. I just kept handing him the pieces, hoping one day he'd notice they were mine. Erica felt her breath catch in her throat. John looked at her, eyes soft with understanding. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. When they left, They walked in silence under the night sky. The air was chilly but crisp, the kind of cold that kept you awake, alert, alive. Halfway down the street, John paused. "Can I say something?" he asked. She nodded. "I like you a lot, but I also respect the space you're in right now. So if this never becomes anything more, I'm still glad I got to know this version of you, the strong, healing, honest one." Her eyes stung with unshed tears, but she smiled. "Thank you, John." He took a slow breath. "But if you ever want to try, I'd be lucky to be the one who never makes you feel small." This time, she didn't look away. "I'm not ready yet," she said softly, "but when I am, I'll know where to find you." He smiled, and they kept walking, no labels, no pressure, just two souls moving forward. The holidays rolled in quietly, with soft lights hanging from balconies, stores playing familiar songs, and a cold wind that slipped through the cracks in the windows of Kelly's apartment. Erica found herself watching it all from a place of distance, like she was inside the world but no longer weighed down by it. She spent Christmas Eve with Kelly's family, who welcomed her like she'd always belonged. There were too many cookies, bad sweaters, and loud laughter around the table. Someone's uncle spilled red wine on the couch and nobody cared. It was messy, chaotic, full of warmth so different from the quiet, stiff dinners she used to have with Stephen, where conversation died between courses and smiles felt rehearsed. After everyone went to bed, Kelly and Erica sat on the porch with blankets wrapped around their shoulders and hot chocolate in their hands. "Still thinking about him?" Kelly asked, not unkindly. Erica looked out into the night. "Not really. He feels like something I once survived." Kelly nodded. "You really made it out, huh?" "I did," Erica whispered. "And it wasn't the leaving that hurt the most, it was the way I stayed after I knew I should have gone." New Year's came next, and with it came her first decision. She wanted her own place. "I think it's time," she told Kelly one morning, half laughing, half nervous. "I've been holding on to this safety net, and I love you for it, but I need to build my own again." Kelly hugged her without hesitation. "That's the healthiest thing you've said since you moved in." Erica found a small studio apartment across the river, nothing fancy, just exposed brick, a kitchen barely big enough for one, and a single window that let in golden morning light. It was perfect. It felt like hers. Moving in was a process. She hung up her own art on the walls. She brought in second-hand furniture. Nothing matched, but everything held a little piece of her. There were plants on the windowsill, a record player in the corner, and the soft hum of solitude that didn't feel lonely anymore. John came by one afternoon to help her hang a shelf. He didn't stay long, just smiled at the chaos, handed her a toolkit, and said, "This place already feels like you." "I think it is," she said. That night, she stood in the middle of her new home with paint-stained fingers and music playing low from her phone. She danced alone, no one watching, no one judging, just her, her body, and the freedom she fought for in silence. And for the first time, she wasn't thinking about what she lost. She was thinking about everything she still had. The next day, she got another email from Stephen. It was longer this time, rambling, apologizing in circles. He said he missed her, that he didn't realize how much she did until she stopped doing it, that he was going to therapy now, that maybe they could talk, just to understand each other better. Maybe coffee, maybe a new start. She read every word carefully, then deleted it, not out of anger, but because she finally knew she didn't need to explain her healing to the person who caused her wounds. She owed herself peace more than she owed him closure. Days later, she found herself sketching again, not just faces or abstract lines, but her different versions of herself. The one who stayed too long, the one who broke quietly, the one who walked away, and the one who danced in a messy apartment and didn't flinch at silence. She pinned the drawings to the wall, one by one, each woman staring back at her with truth in their eyes. And she whispered to them, "We made it." Spring arrived like a slow exhale, warming the sidewalks and painting the trees with soft greens and pale blossoms. Erica had always loved this time of year, even more now that it didn't remind her of him. It reminded her of breathing again, of letting go, not with force, but with ease. She walked more now, sometimes with Kelly, sometimes alone, and sometimes with John. They didn't talk about what they were. That conversation wasn't necessary yet. He showed up. He was there. He stayed present without pressing forward. And that, to Erica, said more than anything else could. One afternoon, They met at her favorite coffee shop, a little place she'd avoided while she was with Steven because he used to complain the tables were too small and the music was too loud. Now she sat at one of those tiny tables, laughing with John as he tried to pronounce the name of her obscure herbal tea. You just order the weirdest stuff, don't you? He grinned. She sipped it with mock pride. It's called yerba mate. Get on my level. He leaned back in his chair, looking at her with something gentle in his expression. I like this version of you. She raised a brow. Which version? The one that doesn't shrink. Her smile faded slightly, but not from pain, from reflection. Yeah, she said. I used to fold myself into whatever shape made someone stay. John looked down for a second, like he was choosing his words carefully. I've been that person too. The one who bends, hoping it keeps something whole. They sat with that truth for a moment. It wasn't heavy, just real. He reached across the table and tapped his fingers against hers, not holding, just touching. It was enough. Later that week, Erica hosted a small gathering at her apartment. Just Kelly, John, and 2 friends from her painting class. There was no big reason for it. She just wanted to fill her space with laughter and music and the sound of people who cared. Kelly brought wine and told loud stories that made everyone laugh. One of Erica's classmates, Leela, played guitar softly in the corner. John helped her cook, chopping vegetables with a seriousness that made her laugh until her stomach hurt at some point. As the evening drifted into quiet conversation and soft jazz, Erica looked around the room and realized she wasn't waiting for something to go wrong. This life, this imperfect, still healing, beautiful mess was hers, and she was finally living it. That night, after everyone left and she was cleaning up the dishes, John lingered in the doorway. You're glowing, he said. Wine will do that, she joked. He didn't laugh, just walked closer, eyes soft. Not the wine. You're glowing because you stopped hiding from yourself. For the first time in a long time, she didn't deflect the compliment. She just smiled and said, thank you. He stepped a little closer. I meant what I said before. I like you, but I've never wanted to be someone's escape, only their calm. She looked at him, really looked, and this time, when he leaned in to kiss her, she didn't hesitate. It wasn't a kiss filled with fire or desperation. It was slow, kind, healing. And when he pulled away, she whispered, this time, I'm not shrinking. He smiled against her forehead. Good, because I wouldn't let you. Months passed. They didn't rush into anything. Erica and John took their time, long walks, quiet dinners, painting sessions where she showed him how to hold a brush and he showed her how messy art could still be beautiful. There were still days when her chest tightened with old memories, when her heart recoiled at the smallest hint of disapproval or silence. Trauma doesn't leave neatly, it lingers like perfume, like smoke. But John never pulled her to heal faster. He never made her feel like love was something she had to earn. He met her where she was. One evening, they sat on the balcony of her apartment, legs tangled beneath a shared blanket. The city moved below them, cars, lights, laughter drifting through open windows. She rested her head on his shoulder, fingers slowly tracing the rim of her teacup. I used to think love meant losing myself, she said softly. That to keep someone, I had to give them everything, even the parts I wasn't ready to give. He didn't say anything right away, just let the silence stretch in a safe way. Then quietly, you don't owe anyone your disappearance. That's when she knew this wasn't a rebound. This wasn't her trying to fill an empty space Steven left behind. This was a beginning. Kelly eventually moved in with her boyfriend and left Erica with a farewell note that read, you're not who you were when you showed up at my door, and I'm so damn proud of that. She cried reading it, not because she was sad, but because she wasn't. She started selling her artwork online, small things at first, then bigger ones. People connected with her style, the layers, the rawness, the vulnerability. One woman messaged her and said, your painting made me feel like I could breathe again, and that felt like everything. On a quiet Sunday morning, Erica found one of Steven's old shirts buried in a box, crumpled, faded, still smelling faintly of the cologne he always wore. She held it for a moment. There was no bitterness, no ache, just a memory, soft and distant. She stood, walked it to the balcony, and let it fall into the donation bag by the door. There were no dramatic goodbyes this time, only quiet closure. John was waiting for her in the kitchen, already brewing her tea the way she liked it, honey, no sugar. He slid the cup toward her and kissed the top of her head. You okay? She nodded. Better than okay. He smiled. Good, because I like the woman you're becoming. She looked at him, heart open but no longer fragile. I do too. And that was it. And no fireworks, no grand declarations. Just a woman who once loved too deeply, broke too quietly, and healed by walking away from everything that didn't choose her back. She wasn't the same Erica who stayed in silence. She was the one who left, and in doing so, she found everything she thought she had lost: herself. The end. Would you like a downloadable version of the story or another one next?